Hello and welcome back to my mapping series. So I've actually done a bit, or actually a lot of work off camera, simply because it was boring. Basically what I did is finish the OOB area village over here. So this whole area is now roughly filled in. I figured you don't want to see that because it's just what I did here, only not as detailed and interesting. So yeah, this area however is now filled out. Later I will probably also add some automatically generated overgrowth in areas where there's still where it still looks empty, but I think for now pretty good. One thing I want to mention, I put these barbed wire obstacles that I also used on this side here, somewhere here, no here. I put those on the road here just to show that this is where the OOB area starts, because people often follow roads and paths. So it's good if there's anything mildly interesting in that area to just place a symbolic barrier there at least. I did that on Oglidov as well, not so much on Studienka, but generally speaking it's a good policy, especially if you don't have too many roads. Anyway, so what I also did is fill out all these erosion generated areas here with vegetation. Again, you saw me do this for ages, so I didn't want to do that on camera again, but I filled these out until I was almost on the, upon these forests that mark the beginning of the Russian main base area. By the way, in case you didn't know, but the reason I don't generate this automatically is because it would be really hard. For one thing, you can't really place these automatically. You really need to fit those in, these hedges, to make them look good. And if you put the hedgerow trees in automatically, they're way too high, because I always sink them into the ground so they look like kind of scraggly bushes or little trees, and you can't generate that automatically, so I had to do that by hand. So anyway, yeah, that's what I did. What we will do next is the forest area, and now here's some thoughts on that matter. I think, like, in your headspace or whatever, it's best to divide your map areas into different, you know how in Minecraft there's different biomes, so you've got a desert and then there's and then you have like a, I don't know, forest or whatever. The point is that these are all distinct and have a limited amount of a different, in Minecraft I guess it would be blocks. And that's also how you should think about your map. So this, for example, would be the destroyed village biome, which I used for these two flags here. And I have a limited amount of elements that I used to create that, namely trenches, these kind of, what's it called? These kind of fences, where I always painted the same kind of texture under these trenches. Then you have the damaged sections here, the shell craters. So there's like a palette that you have to create each area, right? So what we are going to do now, after spending ages on this biome, and parts of that will of course come back when we get to Chino over here. But what we will do now is start on the second big biome we have on this map, which is the forested areas. And forests, and generally these biomes, need to look completely distinct from each other, so a player can easily orient themselves, and also for visual clarity of the map. So how do we make sure that the forests actually look different from, well, I mean obviously from the village, that's clear, there's no buildings in there, but also from the open area biome here around it. And now the obvious answer is density of trees and stuff, and these we will later generate automatically with the OG tool. We won't do that now because we're still in the object placement stage and we don't need the trees right now, because due to the Hemi map we already know where the forests are going to be, so we don't need the trees. The trees can come later. But in addition to the trees, which is the most obvious thing, there need to be other elements to your palette that make the forest distinct from the other areas. If you would just, yeah, now as an example, let's say I would just paint a bunch of overgrowth here and there would be trees here in this free open field area. Believe me, it would look stupid. it wouldn't look like a forest, it would look like some lazy mapper put a bunch of trees there randomly. So what we need are further ways to tell them apart. Some of them I have already prepared in the first videos, namely this texture will only be found basically in, and the associated undergrowth which we will create later. These will only be found in forests and will be like a high grass type yellow dead grass area. In addition to that, we have this texture that is also already associated with trees in the depression or erosion areas here. So that's one thing. However, what I will do next is edit the height map a bit, because it's still basically completely smooth and flat. And usually in forests, what you have is a more varied terrain due to, especially in kind of a wild, untamed forest like this would be. What I will do next is add some height map variation, and I think like there's several ways you can do that. The easiest would be just to use the normal terrain tool and create hills by yourself. There's really nothing wrong with that. For example, that's how I mostly did it on Studienka, if I remember correctly, and I think the forest came out quite well. This time, however, I will use the road tool as before to create variations in height. Because the road tool also means that you can very easily use that to establish a certain flow, because players usually follow the low-lying areas because there's more cover, so you can guide them towards the front line even without a mini-map. It's not a huge deal, because it's not like this map is so big that you would get lost in there. But still, it's nice to have. Now if you look at the Hemi map, so the Russian mainbase of course will be here. I think one infantry spawn area with several infantry spawns will be here. So what I want to do now is create several rough looking low-lying areas, guiding them through the forest to the edge of the forest here. If possible, we'll see maybe connecting them up to this, these depression or erosion areas here. So it looks more natural. And that's my project for now. I will speed that up because I already showed you how that works with roads. Just real quick, you create a bunch of roads, you sink them into the ground, you press apply spline over here, apply spline. That changes the terrain. You delete all the roads because you don't need them. Obviously there won't be actual roads in this area, you know, it's just to make the height map look more varied. And then you smooth it out as much as you want. Anyway, and that's what I'm going to do now. Okay, so I edited the terrain, so now it's really, really rough. So what we will do next is sow out what I like to call breadcrumbs, you know, like in that old grim fairy tale with the witch and so on. These breadcrumbs are basically areas that you will not paint overgrowth in, and instead you build them by hand and then paint the overgrowth around them, but they should look organically as part of the forest. And these are elements that are there to guide the player through the forest, give cover that is not just, you know, like a tree, and add some visual interest. Good example of how that works is on Hütgen Forest. Obviously there's lots of automatically generated forests on there, but there's also these little areas of damaged section where you have a bunch of, what's it called, a bunch of shell craters that you can take cover in, maybe a damaged tree. There's a bunch of maybe rocks or whatever that you can hide behind, or logs that are placed there on purpose, and that's what we're going to do now. For that, what we do need to roughly plan is what kind of vegetation we will use, so we use the same that is then later around it automatically generated. Now, if I look at the area in Google Earth, Emilianovo, jawohl. This is the forest area, and to me it looks like this is very good for us, because that's relatively easy to do. The forested areas here look like there is deciduous trees around it, and then the center seems to be evergreen trees, you know, like pines and stuff, Scots pines. So that is exactly what we are also going to do, and just keep that in mind. So for the outside we use the deciduous trees that are already in the overgrowth palette or overgrowth file from here, and in the inside we will use new ones, the Scots pines and all that stuff. So just let's see. So what this here will be part of the Russian main base, so we will put trenches here and stuff. We'll do that a bit later. But what area could we use for visual interest? So you're coming out of here, maybe following along here. Let's put something here, because there's this little bump. So what could we do? So one idea, and again you should now decide what will you put into the forest biome, because you will put the same stuff in there. Basically, you will put the same stuff on there on all instances of that biome or whatever in your map. So let's put one of these here, maybe, and let's go to vegetation. Oh wait, I think we have actually a winter part of that. I'm kind of reluctant to use the yeah, let's use one of those. I mean, or is that the weird looking one? Yeah, you know what, we're not gonna use that one, but the normal dead bush. But I'm very reluctant to use stones here as I would normally, because with the snow it kind of looks weird that there's no snow on them. I don't really like how they're reskinned in the winter set, and reskinning them myself, it's kind of hard, because then also especially with the larger rocks, the CD rocks, if you reskin them, then they will have snow all around, when the snow should only be on top. And the whole point of those rocks is that you can turn them all around to get different rock formations, so it makes no fucking sense. I hope you know what I mean. It makes no sense to use them here. I had hoped that we had, but apparently we don't, so we need to use the Western Europe version of that, of the destroyed trees. Didn't we have one that was lying down like a lot? Deadlock snow, but it's okay. That's what I meant. I thought it was under bulge or whatever, or winter. Yeah, we're gonna use that. Lose this one because I don't like how that looks. Yeah, nope, I don't like that one. That one can also go. Okay, but here you see the problem. Again, it's reskinned and it looks mildly decent, I guess, but I can't turn it around, which I usually would do to get more variance out of that one log, but okay, fair enough. And let's go see the dead bush. Should be in here as well. That usually looks good in a winter environment. Yeah, dead bush. Okay, let's build a little detailed area here. You know, something like this. You can find a little earth cliff or whatever you want to call it. I'm sure you can find that in all kinds of forests. And build that somewhere where it looks decent. Of course, with this static, as always, I think this is both one of the most cool statics that we have in terms of mapping and one of the most, like, unmapper friendly made, because why is that open? Just close the stupid static up. Modelers, if you can see this, like, close the statics up, don't have these open areas unless it's absolutely necessary for some reason that I'm not aware of. But what the fuck, what is that for? How am I supposed to place this easily? But okay. But you can do neat things with that. Yeah, see this shit. How much more easy that would be if you had just closed that up. Whoever made that. Fuck you. Here we go. We will make this fit. If not, we will just put the log in front of it or something. Oh god. I'm gonna lose so much hair over this, and it's all because nobody actually thinks before they do something. Here we go. Yeah, that I can easily close up. Fuck you. Just close it up. Make it closed. So there's no way, so I can just stick it into each other. No, nothing would be more easy than that. I mean, seriously. This static has so much potential, ruined by modelers. What you could do with that if it had just nice edges, not edges, just had nice closed faces, so it doesn't fucking stick into it. So you can easily stick it like this and done. Yeah, see, bull fucking shit. Everybody's an idiot except me. Okay, put a dead bush on there. Also, who made that? Like this. You know what, I'm starting to change my plan, because I had planned to use a lot of this type of static, but it's made so shit that it's actually not possible. So in the end I might actually have to just use this, the stupid rocks or whatever. Just a shame. Sometimes I wish I could make statics, because I could make statics that you could use in mapping. That would be so nice. Especially, like, not churches, so that I want a modeler, that the modeler should do that, but shit like this, that you can use to create a simple terrain and that you can use in 10,000 different ways. They just don't understand how to make those, because they don't know how to map. That's the problem. That's why I should be able to do that, but, you know, I can't just learn everything at the end of the day. Since there's snow, I think that will look decently. Remember, these will be reskinned to have snow in the end. Here we will just raise this up a bit. Here we go. There's still a little edge there, but you know, let the testers complain to the modelers. Alright, and then we will place, because we can't directly place overgrowth next to this, like trees and shit, because otherwise they will sink or glitch into the statics that we place, so we place some overgrowth. Now if I look at the, I would say that's roughly at the edge of where the inner overgrowth, you know, with the pine trees will start. Let's use the eastern front ones first. Oh yeah, they're under east, I think. East Europe. Yeah, here we go. These Scots pines, which are relatively new, not really new, but new in the sense of made for the Eastern Front release. Nifty. Okay. Here we go. And this would be the first of our little breadcrumbs, and I think for this area, let's look at it. So this will be the trench section, so let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, roughly 6 should be density enough for the playable area. Alright, anyway, the next I will of course do in QuickTime. Alright, so we made our forest terrain here, minus the forest of course, but that will come later. So made a little bit of, or a few breadcrumbs here just to add some more realistic detail to the forest, and the closer ones to the German main base are, well, main base, to the first German sector, I should say, are also damaged, like maybe there was some harassing fire going on, something like that. So. And these can also be used to put forward spawn points next to, by the way, which is probably what's going to happen as well. And here we have the destroyed edge of the forest. Maybe a Russian scouting party tried that, or tried to close in on the German trenches, and they shot mortars at them or whatever. And this is the result, so we have a few damaged and destroyed trees here, and yeah. Okay. So, what I will do next off camera, so I'm not going to film that, but I will do the same on this side of the Russian approach or Russian main base, so in this area. And we will see each other next time, or, well, it will be the same video, but after that we will start on the Russian trench positions from where they will spawn and begin their first assault. Alright, so I added, or I made the same treatment on this forest here. And now I'm gonna start with the Russian main base. I decided to just mostly make it a bunch of trenches. The first one will be here, which will be made in a way that you can easily leave into this direction, so like a staging area type trench, so not for defense. The same here, but these will also have, I'm gonna say 2 mortar pits. I think the Russian artillery will be 2 82mm mortars. I don't think they should have anything larger on this map. And then probably another trench system here in this corner, the same as over there, and from there they can then start. And probably I'm gonna do it like on Omaha and have 2 dummy flags that you can easily capture, which give you forward spawn points in these areas here. But that way, and take away German forward spawn points in the trenches. So that way you can have a nice first battle. But obviously that's gameplay stuff, we're gonna do that later. But at first I will simply add the trench systems. Alright, so first trench system for the Russian main base is done, so you will spawn in here, and then you can run along the trenches with your Russian comrades, which makes for a nice intro into the map, into here, and this is the gateway into the map, and then advance to capture first the forward spawn points and then hopefully also the German first sector. Anyway, the next trench systems, because you've seen me doing this for ages now. Next trench system over here with mortars, I will do off video again. This is where the tanks will spawn. Here will be the second trench system, then another one here with more tank spawns here probably. And yeah, that's the plan. Alright, it's 2 AM in the morning and I think I'm going to go to bed, but this is what I've done. I already showed you this. So I added the mortar pit thing here. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to put one static mortar in here because their range is limited, and one pickup mortar. That way they can shift one mortar forward and have more firepower in the first sector, but later it gets a bit harder. Because I need to shift the mortar forward, obviously. Another infantry spawn here, so you can then go through the woods and attack towards the sector here through this kind of covered flank. And then lastly, and here will be another forward spawn obviously, and I decided to make a central forward spawn as well. So these are the central forward Russian trenches, and they've actually started digging trenches towards the German lines, and you know, in preparation for Operation Mars. And the way I've laid this out is you can use these trenches to get forward somewhat covered, not very deep, but somewhat covered, and then they lead you into the erosion area here. There will be, of course, once we do the overgrowth, more vegetation in here, and then you can advance towards the German line through here. So it's so that's the idea behind that area. Again, it's all about establishing a certain kind of flow that you want, where you want to guide the players. And since there's very little cover on this map, this is one option for infantry to advance through here. Note that you still need artillery and or tank support to do this. This is basically a desert map. I think you should be aware of that right now. I mean, there will be some forests, of course, but this area will probably stay basically like this. I'm thinking about maybe trying something. And then, you know, you're here, and from here you can get towards the enemy. I am trying something. I don't really use much the randomize tool for the height map. I did use it a bit on the French map. What you can do with that is maybe make these snowfields, like, make some cover in there by adding these micro variations, so you can like lie down and be in cover, which you could in snow. It might kind of look weird in terms of having the snow too rough. Probably will destroy the effect of actual snow. Don't know about that. But yeah, anyway, for now I will leave the Russian main base and also finish the video, I guess. So this half of the map is roughly done. Russian main base, first sector with 2 flags. So next will be the flag here. Let's look at our plan. So this will be one, and I might shift the flag around a bit. We will see what. It's not that important where it is. I mean, it's not that important that it is here. Obviously, we need to think about where to put it. So here will be one big forested area, and then after that the last sector. And for the forested area, not 100% sure what I will do with it. I gathered some ideas on Discord, including maybe make a makeshift kind of aid station / fallback point here with like improvised defenses, whereas the main defenses with trenches, of course, will be in the strong point here. So that could be an idea. Have a bunch of stretchers lying around. Obviously wouldn't make that now. Now it's just the major static placement, but that could be an idea. But yeah, generally we will have to give this whole area the forest biome treatment, and then create some kind of central point for the flag zone. Yeah, that will be the idea next time. Also, I need to connect these two. mostly by vegetation, but I also, even though they probably weren't there in real life, I kind of want to put the windmills on here as well. I think in one really early video I talked about that. Like 2 or 3 windmills here, maybe to connect these trenches down to the forest. I mean, on the other hand, you would think probably if there were windmills, they would have blown them up, considering how destroyed the rest is. Then again, they are behind the front line, so I will have to sleep over that, in the truest sense of the word. That being said, it would be cool to have windmills here, and then you can climb up here, and as the Russians, for example, as a sniper, and shoot into the direction of the forest objective and give covering fire and stuff like that. So yeah, as I said, I have to sleep over that a bit, and because sometimes you just have to sleep, and then you get a brainwave of some sort, and you have a new idea. But yeah, so that's the plan for next time. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed it. As always, thanks for watching and have a nice day.